it kind of changed the shape of maybe what we needed or whether we needed anything at all immediately. The other thought process in all of this was what the next couple drafts look like, 2024, 2025, with the end of the COVID years, the college players we're getting, the players that could be available in those drafts. And then we needed a trade partner, and a couple teams had interest, but Dallas was the one that had showed the most interest, and we kept the dialogue open. They kind of wanted to see what would happen in front of them with picks 1 and 2 before they made up their mind. And so we couldn't, get the trade done before the draft or before the deadline yesterday. And so this had to be a draft that took place, or a trade that had to take place in the draft. And so basically our agreement with Dallas was that if the player was there that they wanted, and obviously if a couple people didn't get to our pick, that we would be willing to make that trade. And so that's kind of the genesis of it. We kept in contact with Dallas all day today. We had one other team that was interested in also trading for that pick, but we liked Dallas's offer the best, and made the decision this morning that we would do it if it was presented to us. We debated about a couple players, but we really didn't want to be in a position, both from a cap standpoint and from a roster management standpoint, to bring in another player in the first round who maybe was good enough to make our team, but would force our hand to maybe cut somebody else that we really liked right now on our roster. And so that's kind of where we ended up.
And a quick follow. Sorry, I just jumped in. Good to see you both. But in terms of the roster management, does the limitation that the WNBA has on how many players you could have under contract going into next season, with Elena, Tosh, and Ariel all being potential free agents next year, play a factor in as well?
No, I don't think the free agency thing probably played a factor at all. In fact, if we had probably taken it in that context, we would have thought about taking a player who maybe would not have played this year and kept their rights and kind of moved in that direction. But I just think that, everybody's kind of, looking forward to the next 2 drafts. And I think that had probably the most to do with it of anything. I don't know if Eric, you want to chime in on that, but that was kind of the biggest thing for us.
Nope, nothing to add on that.
Awesome. Thank you both. I'll leave the floor.
All right, we'll go to Jen next.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Eric. Congrats on another draft in the books. Before I ask my main question, just want to clarify along the lines of Tyler's question. So when you drafted Suarez at 4, you knew at that point that she was not actually going to be on your roster because she was going to Dallas. Is that correct?
Yes, because that was agreed upon while Dallas was making the pick at number 3.
Got it.
It was right after Minnesota picked.
Got it. And then, farther down the draft with your 2nd and 3rd round picks, what do you like the most about those 2 players? And was there anything in particular that you learned from the interview process too that sold you on those 2, and for either of you?
We didn't really do extensive interviews with anybody that late in the draft. We did it more for the first round. I have watched Elena play for several years at South Florida. I spent several days with their team a year ago when she was a junior, and got to watch her up close and practice and everything else. I think our staff was in agreement that, here's a player that in our league will probably be a point guard, but can play both positions, has played both in college. And it's going to be a tough road. I mean, I told her on the phone tonight, we have a veteran team, but she's going to be given an opportunity to compete. But I think, that any player coming in that late in the draft knows right now, the way the league stands, that it's, an uphill battle. But we liked the kind of kid she is and how she battles, literally. And, she has great skill sets. And so that was the determining factor. And then in the 3rd round, I think we had kind of made up our mind that we didn't really need anybody more for our camp, that we would try to take an international player that we knew wasn't going to come this year, that, you know, has upside. They're all young, they're all 19, 20 years old right now. And that we felt that, you know, we had a couple players in mind at that pick at 32 that fit that bill. And so that's the direction we went, picking another guard that has multiple skills, good shooters. You know, we always are going to put a premium on shooters. And so Alarcon kind of fits that bill. And, you know, she's not going to come this year to camp, and we'll look at her down the road.
Awesome, thanks. Sounds like Elena needs to get a nickname though.
We'll see. We have another E in camp.
Kareem?
Hey, what's up, y'all? This one's for Eric. Mike kind of touched on it a little bit, saying, you know, with the way you guys constructed the roster through free agency, it sounds like you guys are happy where you stand. I know last season when we ended, you know, there was a list of things that we talked about addressing. Eric, does that just make you mean you're comfortable with where the roster is right now, and confident that you guys addressed some of those issues that you know, we talked a lot about at the end of last season, and just kind of going into this year with I guess more of a veteran laden squad?
For sure. I mean, this is a team that, you know, I think players and staff both feel we're ready to compete now. And, you know, kind of like Coach T said off the top, I'm not sure, you know, had we taken a player that was going to come in right now, that it would be, you know, somebody who would be making a huge difference in the very near future, compared to the upside of, you know, what that pick could be down the road. And so when you just start kind of listing, you know, Brittany Sykes, Amanda Zowie, Tiana Hawkins, Shatori signing back, Lee Mung, and, you know, potentially one or two more, I think it's a group that we feel is ready to go. And we've addressed our defense, we've addressed shooting. And so I think we're going to be a team that's a little bit better balanced maybe than we were last year.
It's funny, and just kind of one follow up from me. It's funny, you know, a big talk here and a big talk around the league has obviously been how this extra year and how even NIL has prompted some people to say, hey, maybe we can stay another year, which seems to have frustrated a lot of people. I'm here in New York, seems to have frustrated a lot. That's been a topic of conversation, people being frustrated with that. But seems like you guys kind of turned that into a positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is a little overblown. I don't want to go like make this a whole thing, but, you know, the top 3 picks all left a year on the table. And so, you know, when you start going down the draft, you realize there's more players like that than, you know, everybody was kind of doom and gloom a couple of weeks ago about the state of this draft and everybody going back to college. But there were a lot of first round picks that, you know, didn't use their extra year. So I still think there's great appeal to coming in this league. And, you know, we're all kind of curious to see how it shakes out the next couple of years as players still have the choice. But we know that COVID year is going to dry up here in the not too distant future.
Cool. Quick and easy. Appreciate y'all.
Wayne?
Hey, how y'all doing? First for Mike, can you kind of walk me through as a GM when you're watching your board, you're watching the picks go off, how, I guess, stressful or calm it is for you in those in that war room?
I think it's mostly calm, in the sense that we, you know, do 6 months of homework. And this morning we kind of had a final meeting that said, okay, we need to put our priorities in order. And when we got to the draft, our priorities played out. Our priority this morning was that we knew, you know, a couple players were not going to be at our pick, and that there was, you know, a group that would be at our pick. And the decision this morning was, do we value the future pick more than we did a player, you know, in this draft? And then this draft got separated into 2 groups also, those who were going to play right away and those who you could, wait on for a year. Soares being an example. There's a couple other foreign players that were examples of that. And we like those players. But either way, we were going to wait. And we felt that the wait was going to be better served for our long-term future, by doing the draft. Or by doing the trade. And so, as it was happening and Dallas is, calling and confirming, you only have about 90 seconds or 2 minutes to say, okay, we're going to do it. And that's probably the moment of hectic. You gotta stick to your convictions because, there were a couple players that, weren't going to come that we did like. And we had to say, no, we've done our homework and you have to stay with what you believed in fundamentally. And that's what we did.
And appreciate you. And then for Coach Eric, I guess when you're in this seat now, can you just kind of walk me through like how it was and was it what you expected, anything different? I know you said you did your homework, but just as in this chair, how did the draft go for you?
Quite frankly, it wasn't much different. We've always been a group and a staff that, is willing to give everybody a voice. Maria's not on this call, but she obviously has a huge hand in it. And then our coaching staff as well that goes out and scouts players all winter long. So, we're very collaborative. Coach T's got the final say as the GM, but I don't know. I mean, a couple of years ago, he started telling me, you're going to be the one coaching them. So I don't know. I don't know where you draw the line of when it was, I started having more say or whatever. I think we've always worked pretty well in combination.
Appreciate you.
Christos?
Hello. First question for Coach Eric Thibault. From coaching standpoint, what did you see in Elena Tsineki about her skills, and what is your plan going ahead of the training camp for her?
I think she can come in and play her game. She's got a very kind of modern point guard's game. She can stretch the floor. She can shoot off the dribble. She can get in the lane and make plays. And, one thing I really liked about her, and I like about players in general, is that they showed improvement, as they stayed in college. So I thought she, Coach T mentioned that he saw her a lot her junior year, and I thought she made a step up from her junior year to this season. So, that shows you that's a player that wants to get better and puts work into her game. And so she just has to come in and be herself and, try to do what we ask and learn her teammates as a point guard, and she'll be fine.
Thank you very much. And for you, Mr. Thibault, your experience with Greek players like Evina Maltsi and Jackie Gemelus, how helped you to take the decision and select Elena Tsineki in this draft?
I mean, other players had no bearing on it. I just look at these players as, who they are in that moment, what they can do. I don't really ever care where they're from. I want them just to be good basketball players that know how to play unselfishly, that understand their roles. And, I never look at it in light of former players, unless you have a direct comparison that somebody just reminds you of somebody. But she's herself. I don't put any stock on, prior things. Those other people can't come back and shoot the ball for her either.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Shout out to Evina and Jackie G, though, two of our favorites over the years.
Yeah.
And they still remember Coach Thibault, especially Evina.
Yep.
Tyler?
Hey guys, I just have a couple more. Mike, you talked about back when you had the original 2022 #1 overall pick about getting the most out of that pick that you could, because it was such a rare opportunity for this organization to be there with the aspirations that you guys had. Now that you've added another net draft pick into what that pick has turned into, do you feel like you guys have maximized the value of that #1 pick?
Well, we'll probably let you know in 2025 how that worked out. But, at the moment, yes, I mean, we moved up, 4 spots in the draft. It allowed us to have something that was desirable to another team. I think no matter what, everybody would have to say that our draft pick by switching picks last year worked out pretty well, getting Shakira Austin, that worked out for us. And so to do that and get what we wanted a year ago and get something that improved this year and into the future, that's probably the most you can hope for from something like that. And so, we'll just keep trying to play it forward until, we see the player that fits the next thing we want.
And then for you, Eric, I know you're very confident with the roster that you have, but what maybe will you be looking for to fill those final spots with the players that you have coming into training camp and what they would be able to potentially provide for the team?
Yeah, it's tough to say too much in the sense that it's, several players who have been pros competing for a couple jobs. I expect a really, really competitive training camp. But we've got a lot of people who are bought into being here and have always been good team first type of people. So we'll see. We're gonna let it play out. We know, we always try to see not just who are the best players, but what's the right mix together. What groups do we like together? Who do we think can develop? So there's a lot of things that go into it. And, I think we've always been pretty good at not making decisions now, but letting camp play out and see how it goes.
Thank you both. Congrats on the night.
Jen?
Just a couple of follow-ups from me as well. Mike, aside from looking at your needs this season versus in the future, when you decide to make that trade, how good do you expect the 2024 and 2025 drafts to be?
Well, everybody can go and look at the players that are going to be returning to college basketball over the next couple of years, and some can come out next year and some will definitely be in the 2025 draft. There are a bunch of players who could come in next year's draft, but also could stay another year. And so, I'm not going to name all the names, but you guys can go down the list of all the players that played in the NCAA tournament or on, all conference teams. There's a fairly large list. And so I think the depth of those drafts could be very significant, particularly in 25 when we have 2 first-round picks now. Next year, like this year, there's just several players who can make a choice to come out or stay. And so we'll have our own pick next year. We recouped a second-round pick for next year that we had given up in the Manizawi B trade. And so now we have a full complement of picks. We have 3 picks in each draft, but we have 3 firsts in 2-year period. And that's, I don't know, what that Atlanta pick will look like. I have no idea, but even if you aren't picking a player, you also can use these again as collateral in trades. Having multiple firsts allows you to have more options. And so that's a big thing. And to be honest, we have a team that's getting a little bit older. And so at that point in the 25 draft, a couple of years from now, we might need an infusion of 1 or 2 young players into our team. And I think that's part of the thinking also.
And then last thing for me, you both mentioned how complete kind of the roster seems to be for this year. Can you just give us an update on how Elena and Maisha are doing health-wise, and do you have a timetable for Christy to sign?
Elena is doing great. Her position right now is that she is full go. I don't know that we'll make any decision until we're closer to the season and whether we would sit her any games like we did last year. Her intention right now is to play as many as she can. We only have 1 back-to-back all year. But that's a to be determined, but she's doing full workouts right now and she's been a full go. Maisha, we've been very careful with. We're going to kind of work her way through training camp. Nothing has been decided about, when her first game would be or not, but she's on the court almost every day during the week with one of our coaches. She's going through, drills right now. She hasn't done any live, like 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 yet. That's still to come. But I, just talking to our medical people last night, that I would say she's made huge progress in the last 3 weeks, as to how she feels and what she's doing. And then the Christie one, it's just a matter of time getting it done. She just finished her season with Dallas. She and I have talked, basically told her, get some rest, get her mind away from it a little bit. She's excited about coming, but a contract will get done here in the next, week to 10 days, I'm sure.
And you're expecting just on time for camp from her?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Wayne,
Just two more. One for Coach Eric. Can you kind of give me a timeline? Because when the draft was today, I was like, wow, like the season's here pretty much. So can you kind of give me like your timeline of how you're getting ready for that home opener versus the New York Liberty?
Yeah, I know the draft gets the headlines this time of year, and it's always kind of funny. The draft ends, and then like tomorrow we're back in the gym with our guys that are going to play a lot of minutes this year, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is actually like the team that's going to play. It's kind of the draft has its moment, and then we get on to, the real deal. But we've had a group. Won't start tomorrow. We've had a group that's been here pretty consistently working out through the offseason. Obviously, players overseas that will be finishing up their seasons, we keep a close eye on. And when we get into camp, everybody knows in the WNBA it's a short camp, and you've got to try to mesh and connect as quickly as you can. And you're not planning just for the home opener, but you're planning for a 40-game season now, and hopefully we want to have a long run in the playoffs. So you're just trying to build the habits you need when it comes down to crunch time.
And appreciate you, Coach. And last one from Mike. I know as a GM you have a stressful time, but how have you enjoyed the grandfather life?
Love it. Eric's son is a delight. It's been great. We've, got a chance several days a week to hold him, have him, do whatever. It's been great. It's a whole new look on life when you go back to having a little one in your hands again and realizing, how dependent they are on you at that moment.
Good to see you smile. Y'all have a good one.
He
Appreciate
made his
that.
first appearance in the facility today, so he's getting ready for that home opener.
Oh, there you go. Gotta get him the beanie next.
all right. That concludes our media availability for tonight. Thank you all for joining. We will be sending out our release shortly, and we'll share more information about the upcoming season in the next week. Thanks, everybody.